thou that sleepest, arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
There you are.
Okay. We are here. Don't panic, Bill. We already took care of that for you.
It's a mess today.
Virtue signaling and the big lie. From our Joe Biden-inspired underground secluded studios located somewhere in the Midwest of the DSA, that's Divided States of America. As the saying goes, if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such a time as a state can shield the people from the political, economic, and military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes virtually important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent. For the truth is a mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state. When you see Seattle and you see Minneapolis, I want you to think useful idiots, because these anarchists, these bloomers, are doing the bidding of the government, a government which has as its intent to take the entire USA over, the world actually. Make it all, yep, here we go, communism, which our children just have no idea what that means. None whatsoever. By the way, the quote I just read is attributed to Hitler, or was it Stalin? But whoever coined the phrase was right on. And isn't it interesting that it was a power-hungry Nazi or communist that we attribute to this quote to, and for good reason. Perception is reality, folks. I think I'm hearing in monotone, Mr. Anderson. It's not the usual, but that's okay. That's okay. Perception is reality, right? Isn't that what we're experiencing in today's America? Young, apparently orphaned children. They wouldn't be acting like this if they had parents, would they? Oh, they do have parents. That's right, the state. We're back to that useful idiot thing, aren't we? Doing the state's bidding. They've been trained to destroy our republic. Now, they haven't done it yet, and they're just in the beginning stages. It's how we react to this. And please don't shake your finger at President Trump. It's you, folks. It's me. We have to stop virtue signaling. Got to stop wearing masks. We've got to stop with the... Did you lose me? You got to stop with the Black Lives Matter. I don't think I'm broadcasting. Still can't hear myself.
You can't hear you?
No, I can't hear myself. on the headset.
I don't know why.
Bill Miller, can you hear us out there, brother? Let me know. Let me know whether we're still broadcasting, please. Don't see anything, but there's a delay, right? Again, like I said, perception is reality. Isn't that what we're experiencing today in America? Young, apparently orphan children. That means they don't have any parental supervision. Have been allowed to overrun our cities. And more importantly, our dialogue. Get rid of the police, right? I think I'm starting to hear myself again. Actually get rid of all authority. Liberty, no moral guardrails. Amen? How insane is that? And replace it with what? Thanks, Bill. Biker Bill.
Our backup guy.
Yeah, but this is all about good intentions, isn't it? As long as you have good intentions, it's okay. What do they say about the road to hell? Paved with what?
Good intentions.
We've given the youth of America the keys to our cities. Think about this. We're turning our cities over to the youth. And the first thing they're demanding is that they don't have any parents. I'm sorry. They don't have any policemen. No authority. What's the purpose of laws? Is to protect, right? Protect the innocent. Who's going to determine who the innocent are? Young, wet behind the ears? Students? Libertarians? Are there any leaders, any parents around? I'm talking about community leaders and family parents. Yeah, I hear you. And what about the church? I get it. The church is complicit in this. They shouldn't be, but they are definitely complicit in this. Southern Baptist Conference is now saying that we need to restore and give back to a community which you and I have taken nothing from. Relive the past. How far are we going to go back, by the way? We're going to go back to Japan and restore that? How about England? Don't we need to restore some things to England? Of course, we'll get to the engines. Yeah, we'll get to them.
Oh, that was on the news this morning.
What's that?
The Trail of Tears.
Come on. What we're trying to do is wake you up. This is Do Radio, folks. This is Do Radio. I went into Costco today. I'm sorry, this week. Maybe you can see it there, maybe not. Okay. This is the back of a box for masks. And I have allergies, and I mow a big lawn, so I needed a mask and I didn't have one. Well, where do I go pick up a mask? Well, Costco requires that if you go into their store, you have to wear a mask. Now, I've already told you that the past 3 times that I've been in Costco, I've not worn a mask because I chose not to wear one. And I did do my shopping, by the way. So this time I go in, and there they are. Do you have a mask, BJ? No. Here, let me get you one. I said, okay. And he pulled it out of the box. And I said, let me see that box. And he kind of looked at me funny. Why? I just want to see what it says on that box. You're making me wear a mask. I want to see what that box says, what the mask consists of. So he didn't release the box to me. He hung on to it for dear life. And I had to read around his hand. But I did read around it. And I said, why are you making me wear a mask? He says, well, because of COVID-19. I said, this box says absolutely nothing. This box says absolutely nothing. Nor will you find any other boxes that will tell you that they protect you from COVID-19. The box doesn't protect you.
The box.
Okay? Nor what's in the box doesn't protect you. And I said, why are you making me wear this mask? Well, it's a policy. You got to wear the mask or you can't shop. So I took the mask, put it on. Well, I guess you could say I put it on. It wasn't really the way they would prefer, but I did wear it. It makes a nice looking beard, by the way.
I see a lot of people doing that.
Yeah. Or you see the employees there with the mask down to you can't see. You can't see with a mask because of the exhaling through your eyes. So anyway, I wore the mask. I did my shopping, and when I ended the shopping, I caught a supervisor in the checkout line, and I said to the supervisor, "Why are you making people wear the mask?" He says, "Well, for protection." I said, "It doesn't protect COVID-19. It doesn't say on the box that it protects it." And he looked at me like he got caught, and I said, "Well," he said, "Well, yeah, you're right. It doesn't." I said, "Well, why are you making me wear the mask?" And he said, "Well, to protect other people because you might have COVID." I said, "I was just tested 5 days ago. I don't have COVID. Why are you making me wear the mask?" And then he just sheepishly said, "Well, it makes people feel good."
Yeah.
I said, "What?" "It makes people feel good." I didn't get a chance to call corporate. I'll probably do that this week.
Virtue signaling.
Yes, exactly. It makes people feel good.
Make other people feel better.
Yep.
I went on Amazon and I searched mask and I typed in COVID, mask for COVID
Right.
protection. And I read about 10 reviews on each of the, there were a lot of masks that came up. But the ones that were supposed to come up for COVID, not one said it protected you from virus or bacteria. Good for dust, pollen, large particles in the air.
Pollen, yeah. You going to mow your grass? Go to Costco. They got a great deal on masks.
For pollen.
Yep.
But the virus structure, I don't know what the word is I want, molecules, whatever they are smaller.
Microns.
They're microns.
Yeah.
And to get a mask that filters out microns, even a medical mask is stretched to filter those out. The N95, the famous N95 mask, will filter out some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Not all. Not all.
We're being led around like sheeple. We're being led around like sheeple. We want to virtue signal. We want to do what other people think we should do, so we get along. We don't want that rejection. Look, like we've been saying,
go along to get along.
You can read 1984, and I'm hearing that on the news media a lot today. 1984.
Oh yeah.
And get George Orwell's insight. It was a fiction book back in the 30s and 40s when he wrote it.
Wasn't that required reading from call last week?
Yep. Well, there's one other that's required reading.
The Lord of the Flies?
Yes. So George Orwell's 1984 used to be a fiction book. It's now becoming a history book.
Prophetic word.
Mm-hmm. But don't forget about what Mr. Andrews has said. William Golding's Lord of the Flies, folks. We're being supervised by children. By the way, they are looking for adult leadership. Apply within. Lightly experienced are they, wet behind the ears, but heavily armed and fully empowered. We're turning our nation over to children and letting them run our nation. No moral barriers. You know what led up to this? No, we want to go back to normal, where we have gay marriage, where you can have sex with anybody you want to have as long as they agree with it. Yeah, that's really helped us out, hasn't it? Oh, wait a minute. We do have morals.
Well, and then after they do it, then they decide that I changed my mind.
Yeah. We have Black Lives Matter morals. An organization formed by women who want men out of the picture, especially the one called Jesus. He was a man, remember?
Someone joined
Yeah.
the phone call.
I don't know how to get to this without shutting down. I should be able to.
Go to the tab.
Up here?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still on.
Okay. Vinny, hang in there with us. We're going to take a break, and if you want to speak, you're welcome to.
A break?
Yep.
All right. Just do a
Yep.
audio break.
Jesus was a man, remember? I guess that's debatable as well, right? Laws by force, by democracy. Give the majority what they want. Socialism, communism. You love to love it. Do the ends justify the means, folks? Killing, arsons, thefts, taking over entire city blocks? Is that what we should be doing? Oppressing others because others have supposedly been oppressed? Not currently, but in the past. B.J. Edwards along Mr. Anderson, your last call. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Last call with B.J. Edwards. Real talk about real life.
And we are back. Animal
About real
Farm.
life.
What do you get when you combine Animal Farm with George Orwell's 1984? You get America today. You get America today. We're going to have a great guest on at 11 o'clock hour, Michael Massey. I'd like you to read his bio. I'd like to read his bio, but that would take probably a couple hours just to read his bio. The lad's been around, and he's done an awful lot. And he's got an awful lot to say about this insanity that's going on in our streets. Racism.
You're going to bring Vinny in?
Yeah. Racism will end when we stop speaking it into existence, and no sooner. Vinny, are you with us?
I'm here, brother.
Okay, let me get the sound up a little bit. Try that again, Vinny.
Yeah, I'm here, brother. How's it going?
It's going fine. Thanks for calling in. What do you think about all this insanity? I'm sorry. I'm prejudicing the situation, Vinny. What do you think about what's going on in America today? Isn't it good? Isn't it that this protesting? Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this what America's about?
Well, yes and no. Here's the thing. The protest is always good because protest is an American thing. But what we have faux protests. And so I wrote something in the chat, and I got a laugh at least from Bill, so that's good. And yes, you should turn Mr. Anderson up because Mr. Anderson is absolutely integral to the show. So here we go. The Hell's Angels are coming. The Hell's Angels are coming. Fitna, are you ready for this? I heard this last night. I was on this live stream last night, and they got an alert that the Hell's Angels have collaborated, and they're all going to Seattle. They're all going to Seattle. What do you think is going to happen when they hit Seattle?
Survival of the fittest?
I believe that this has been foretold in the Bible, guys. A bloodbath of an immense proportions is going to occur. You've ever heard of 400 in Strong's Concordance?
Mm-hmm.
If you guys look that up, it has a connotation. Right? So the Hells Angels are going to take care of business, right? They're not bound by all these niceties that President Trump and we, as logical, normal people, are bound to. What they depended on is that we are going to uphold Queensberry rules while they stab us in the back, or right in the face. And we stand there and say, oh, we won't do that because we're good people. And they stab us to death. See, and that's what they depended on. Guess what? It failed. You know why? Because they're good people in sheep's clothing. Also, we learned their tricks. We have learned their tricks. I'm Johnny Appleseed, like I told the guys the other day. I'm Johnny Appleseed. So you want to hear these things, They're not these bon mots. They're not these little 10-second sound bites. I live these things. All right. So I'm Johnny Appleseed. I dropped seeds all over the place for decades, and now they're all bearing fruit. I have people paying attention all over the place, and they all see the danger, and they're taking care of business. All right. The Hells Angels, they didn't wait for me to say the revolution is on. They figured it out. And so they're heading to go take care of business. So all these idiots in fitna, right? So we call them fitna, right? And Chaz, in their stupid zone. So guys, let's think about this. Let's think about what happened in Waco. What happened in Waco? Did the guys in Waco, did they have access to the internet? The internet was just nascent back then, but did they have access to it? I'm pretty sure it got cut off. Did they have access to plumbing, proper plumbing? I'm pretty sure that got cut off. How is it that Antifa, Chaz, whatever you want to call those idiots, the idiots who couldn't plan feeding themselves for more than 24 hours. Think about soy. I'm going to laugh about soy. You know, I worked in Trader Joe's. You know, I can move the soy pallets by myself without a hand truck. All right. How did they not figure to take enough soy in so at least they could tell everyone else who weren't soy consumers, well, you just have to fend for yourself because that's just how it goes. You didn't think about it. You thought about yourself. We thought about ourselves. We got all the soy we'll have for a year, you know, but they didn't. They didn't even do that. That's how inept they are. And they want to take over something. You are a bunch of clowns, and you deserve. In fact, let me do the line. I still haven't seen the movie, people, but I love quoting the line because it's so apropos. You get what you deserve. And sorry for that, but I've had an interesting morning. My mom's in the hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, so I'm having fun with this whole thing, right? Because listen, I got to face the whole thing. Eventually, my mom's not going to come back from the hospital one of these days. So it's just I'm getting on with business.
Vinny from New York. Vinny, here's what I see. And I mean, there's a lot of issues here, but in general, here's what I see. On our side, our leaders, if you will, are committed to compromise. That the other side is committed to their cause. So when we have a conversation, the other side isn't going to budge, and we're going to start in the middle. So who wins that argument, Vinny? The committed.
Well, you know what it is? That's exactly though. But therein lies the problem. The problem is that we've allowed them to relegate the argument to those points, right? And the argument is much bigger than those points. And there's an answer to all that. Listen, like I said before, I told before about Coach and Coach's. As far as I know, is solely behind it. I'm not endorsing him saying anything about this. This is simply my view, but I'm saying I discussed it with him, and I believe he agrees with me totally after he got all the evidence in. This whole race thing is a complete psyop, and if anyone believes it, they just simply want to believe in the boo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo poor me thing, right? Remember I said about the houses, right? So black people go to sleep in an empty house, and they wake up in an empty house because white people took all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then white people go to sleep in an empty house, and they wake up in a house full of luxurious things because all of a sudden just magic crap happened, right? And now the story is, well, hey, black people, white people took all your stuff, go and get it. Like that is supposed to be acceptable, right? And then these idiots on TV, this Bender woman saying that your stuff is white privilege and you should just let people take it, right?
Yeah.
But are seriously? Are people seriously considering that we're going to allow for these two situations? Let me get these two situations out. I'm so pissed. I can barely control myself. One, a veteran who fought for this country dying in a hospital with two grinning ghouls standing over him, or watching a man sitting calmly with people and then getting beat and stripped like a dog for absolutely no reason. I don't care the provocation. I don't care if the N-word, you know, the word that I can say, but most of you people can't, which is ridiculous, comes out. There's absolutely no provocation for anyone to touch you ever. I have to stress that, right? So just those two situations. Do you think people are going to put up with that? No. What is going to happen is, and I'm not saying this to glorify it, what's going to happen is more incidents like what's happened with that stupid idiot with the 18-wheeler, right? Listen, you are stupid if you think that any interaction with an 18-wheeler is going to end positively for you in any way whatsoever, right? None. Or standing, and this is the most appalling thing. I almost said it on air. I know it would have gone Coach's show thrown off the air forever, right?
You're talking about Coach Dave. You're talking about Coach Dave Dobblemire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. The idiot who stood in front of the statue when it fell. What did he think was going to happen? Right, and I'm done. Right, because I'll end with that, guys. What did he think was going to happen? And I'll end with he wasn't thinking at all. Thank you very much. I'm so glad I was able to get all this off. I love you guys. God bless you. Tab, Folu. We have to get together.
I get it, brother. I get it.
There's a time to vent.
Nationalism will save this nation. People, I love you all. God bless you.
Hey, B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson, your relief channel. You want to call in and relieve yourself? You just heard Vinny from New York, and Vinny relieved himself. And Vinny, next time you call in, brother, take the gloves off. None of this soft stuff, okay? Come on, take the gloves off, brother.
I love you, brother.
All right, you too. Thanks, Vinny. And we need a lot of that. We need a lot more of that, folks. We need to
conference muted.
We need to be committed to the cause. It takes more than emotions, by the way. It takes more than emotions. But you need to be committed, and not committed to compromise. Not committed to compromise. I want to read something about. You get a lot of criticism of our president. You get a lot of criticism, but there's some things about our current president that maybe you haven't looked at. I have felt these sort of things. I read it was on my email from a lady by the name of Ashley Lond, and she kind of points it out. I want to get into the headlines first, and the headlines kind of reveal what we're looking at here in America. Steve Scalise announces plans to investigate governors who ordered nursing homes to take in COVID positive patients. Asked Dems to join him. And then, of course, we had northern exposure from Canada. Trudeau, Prime Minister, mulls making coronavirus vaccine mandatory for Canadians. This is northern exposure. The state of Ohio and other states still won't officially tell me and other folks in America that you don't have to take that vaccination. They're going to try to isolate folks that are over 55 years old. They're going to isolate you. They've learned their lesson. We can't do it to everybody. We can't shut everybody down. We're just gonna build a camp, and we're gonna put all the 55 pluses in that camp. Okay? Just so you know that. You don't know that it's not going to happen. Don't give me that. You don't know that.
Well, it used to sound like a myth, but boy, we're getting closer to who knows what's going to happen.
1984. 2 plus 2 equals 5.
We're only a few years behind.
You have to wear a mask. You, Whitey, are the cause of all the problems. If it hadn't have been for you, we could be living in nirvana. Whitey.
Quit being so racist.
You the bad guy. You the bad guy. Yeah, I heard that. Vinny got me started. And I mentioned the church earlier. Christianity Today headline calls for reparations from churches. Repentance is not enough. I'm sure that's in the Bible somewhere. Reparations, I'm sure that's there. The president and CEO of Christianity Today said in a news editorial that churches should consider making biblical restitution to African Americans. What is an African American, for God's sakes?
I don't know.
Dual citizenship?
African or are they American?
Yeah.
Well, Obama kind of fixed that, right? His father was African. His mother was American.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Biblical restitution to blacks for the sins of slavery, segregation, racial injustice, by setting up financial funds. We're going to have national GoFundMe accounts, right? To make it right. No. We're still going to steal the money from you. What's that old saying? With friends like this, who needs enemies? The church. How sad. Honk your horn if you agree. Honk your horn. NASCAR bans Confederate flags. I never thought this would happen. And removes guidelines requiring standing for national anthem. Children are running this nation.
Isaiah chapter 3.
Get that out if you can, Mr. Anderson. Group tears down Columbus State statue outside Minnesota State Capitol. Isn't that what Muslims do? Destroy all the history of the nations that they are about to overtake? Boy, I hope you like communism. Seattle Autonomous Zone. Mayor blasts Trump for calling protesters ugly anarchist. What does a good-looking anarchist look like, by the way? Oh, and I saw this on the internet, so it must be true. I saw this the other day.
Of course it's true.
It was an item about someone putting re-elect Trump stickers on the cars of BLM protesters. And then sitting back and watching the fireworks. From a distance, of course. I'm going to have to pick me up some of them re-elect Trump stickers. And take them to downtown Columbus next time the protesters are down there. I think that would be just delicious. Just delicious. Hey, we're going to trumpet the president here in the next segment. This is B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. Thanks for listening in. Again, you need to vent. 302-202-1110 and then 745-353. It should be playing, but it's not.
Keeping you informed.
Yeah.
This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
So for all you never Trumpers, this next section is going to be X-rated.
Uh-oh.
So cover your ears. What do you got here?
Well, you wanted Isaiah.
Oh, I thought you could bring it up on the screen. But go ahead, read it to me.
That gets a little tricky.
Read Isaiah to me, brother. Can you?
Isaiah 3:12. For as my people, children of their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy paths.
Black Lives Matter was started by, what, 3 lesbians?
Yeah, women.
Who hate men, but want to be one? Well, then, no. I'm sorry. They know how to do men right. Forgive me.
They're better at it.
Yeah, they're better at being men than men. And to be honest with you, from what I've seen, they may be right. They may be right.
That gets scary. That gets scary.
Virtue signaling and the big lie. The question was from Quora, and I've already warned you about Quora. They're very liberal, but some of the answer that I got from somebody that was conservative on the Quora side, I thought was quite interesting. The question is, what difficulties do American conservatives, who are not particularly fond of Trump, have with liberal ideologies? Which liberal issues will prevent them from voting Democrat despite their distaste for Trump? We're trying to what? We're trying to bring up these negatives, aren't they? Well, here is the response from a conservative. Again, the lady's name is Ashley Land. Don't know her, but I love what she said. She says, I'll vote for Trump in 2020. My view is Trump is a jerk, but he's our jerk. And better to have an effective jerk than a weak, nice guy. Does George Bush come to mind? Pick one. Dubia or the other one? Does that come to mind? Nice. My support for Trump is 60% policy, 40% culture. The culture aspect is simple, she says. I want to deal a fatal blow to the far left and their stranglehold over the Democrat Party. A second Trump victory against a Democrat proclaiming themselves the most progressive president since FDR would force the Democrats to rethink their strategy and actually give a darn, she uses another word, about parts, well, I guess I could say damn because damn and darn are the same thing, right? Would give a damn about parts of the country that don't have a coastline. I want the left to realize that 72 genders is nonsense, that identity politics is inherently divisive, and that social justice only has sway in a handful of cities, which they're guaranteed to win anyway. Now on to policy. China. I don't care what Biden says. Nothing can convince me that he will be firm on China. Trump, on the other hand, has been critical of China since the 80s. Biden has been critical of China since April. We have one candidate who believed Russia to be our biggest adversary and another who believes China is. The fact that Democrats think we ought to be worried about Russia and view China as a benevolent nation shows me they have no clue when it comes to foreign policy. Absolutely no clue. Russia's economy, this is interesting, is about the size of Germany's, maybe even smaller. China, on the other hand, is the second largest economy with an arrow. Russia is like the kid who bullies you, but knows he can't actually win the fight. Sure, Russia flies planes around Europe now and then and sail a ship near an American ship. But are they in any sort of shape to wage war? Nope. On the economy, Donald Trump, love him or not, presided over one of the best economies in history before COVID hit. Joe Biden thinks he's running for Senate and pledged to raise taxes on businesses, creating too many obstacles to some in a much-needed COVID growth environment. On political correctness, 2 words, over to the window. Legally, you can say whatever you want. But at the same time, in those last few years, we have seen careers ended over jokes. Speaking of jokes, AOC is apparently going to be Biden's lead on climate change. Yes, a socialist bartender is going to be in charge of America's energy policy.
Children again.
Speaking of insane, yes, and children. And you can say, oh, but Trump is awful on climate change. That doesn't mean empower someone who says that the world is going to end in 12, I guess that's 11 years now. Much less one who thinks the U.S. debt is a result of an accounting error. Trump voters found out what it was like to win an election and still have the other party pretend it didn't happen. It's the craziest thing to see that Trump is objectively the president of the United States, but seeing liberals acting like this is just a glitch in the system rather than a product of it, insulting the voters. The left and liberals still don't understand that Trump is a cultural president. He wasn't voted for because of his ideas look good on paper. He's the first Republican in my lifetime, and listen to this, who, when faced with a hostile and biased media, doesn't just sit there and take it like Dubia Bush did, which would be fine, except when the media went after him, they often went after his voters and supporters, insulting you and me. With the Republicans of old, the deep state, which is trying to destroy Trump, a journalist would get up and say, some have said that you did X, and that's bad, Mr. President. To which Republicans would say, oh, well, I have to look into that for you. Here's how it goes with Trump. Some have said that you, Mr. President Trump, did X, and that, and then you hear from the president, who? Who said that? Well, I don't know, Mr. President. That's because it's fake. Never happened. Fake news. And quite often, he's right. The way we conservatives see it, we were in a boxing match. Our guy was Danny DeVito, and we just traded up to Rocky. Donald Trump is a check on the far left, And he addressed issues that were largely going ignored by the left, such as mass immigration, jobs going overseas, dying towns, opioid epidemics, so forth and so on. Factor in his culture relevance, and you have a recipe for victory. And I hope this leads to a 2020 victory. Mr. Anderson, I know you appreciate that. I tried to get something like that on last week, but it didn't fit very well. Look it. I don't know for sure about Donald Trump. But that's because we have not followed through with his requests. We leave the guy hanging out there. No, we don't leave him hanging out there. We criticize him because nothing gets done, and nothing gets done because we criticize him. And that's all we do. Barking dogs in a parade. In your town, Seattle, Minneapolis, Columbus, Ohio, what are you doing? No, what are you doing? Just getting along, going along, being apologetic like George Bush? I'll look into it. I'll check it out. Have you contacted your, God, I hate to use this word, leaders, servants? Ooh, sends chills up my spine just to say that word. I talked to both my local state representatives this week. Their offices, you can't get them directly.
Yeah, I tried.
Yep. But I gave a couple assistants earfuls and sent them emails after that. And I'm going to follow up.
I did the same, and I I heckle them on Facebook a little bit.
Yep. You have to follow up. If you just call them or you just send them an email or you just Facebook them and nothing else happens, you don't follow up either with words or actions, what happens? Children take over your nation, right? Are you adults? Are you leaders? Are you family leaders? And for God's sakes, be one. Step up to the opportunities are there. I mean, you could take the old BJ, behind every rainbow there's a cloud. But once you see that cloud, let's do something about it. Let's salt it a little bit, get the rain out of the road, and let's get down to business.
No chemtrails, please.
No chemtrails, huh? Value signaling and the big lie. Stop value signaling. Start being a man, fathers. You know, America doesn't have a skin problem. It has a sin problem.
Absolutely.
We have really painted ourselves into a corner. And you know what? You're going to get wet getting out of it, but you better do it now, because if you let that paint dry, it's going to be game, set, and match. We have to speak up, and we have to speak up now. And you can't be afraid. Fear is driving us, and lack of morals is sending us to the pit of hell as a nation. Now, I know that in large part, the family has been responsible, or the lack of family has been responsible for what we're seeing in America today. If we had families where fathers were leaders, where morals were being taught in the family, and where children respected their mother and father, yeah, they sure do now, don't they? Yeah. I'm sure that fathers are proud of these BLM movers and shakers, anarchists. I'm sure they're very proud. And you know what? I don't even think the kids give a darn. That's the way you brought them up. Lord of the Flies. They became their own father. And now they're becoming their own authority, and soon they'll become their own gods. There is no heaven, there is no hell. It's whatever I think it is. And look where it's gotten us. This is pretty shameful. This really is. But it is. I don't think that. I'm not going to tell you the second coming. I'm going to wait for Christ. But I can tell you, if we wait long enough, he will come. But I don't think he's going to be happy with your waiting. You're going to be sitting there at the bus stop waiting for the last call train, right? Tapping your foot, looking at your watch, going, "Jeez, where is he? Where is he?" Because most of you are doing that now anyway. Our second hour, we're going to have Michael Massey as our guest. And I'm going to try to set that up with an article I wrote recently. It's called The Illusion of Racism. And I'm sure I'm going to make a lot of friends by saying it, but it is what it is. Racism, folks, does not exist. It does not exist. And once you say, yeah, but a piece of a piece of a piece of a piece of a little bit of piece of, I see it out there. I see that little bit of piece. See it? See it, BJ? And you know what the world's going to focus on, don't you? Not the whole picture, but that little bitty. Because they've been trained. If you tell a lie long enough and loud enough, they've been trained to see racism. That's it, racism. Adjust everything you do to racism. Church. Huh? B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson, your last call. Making friends.
Short break.
Got any clips?
Stay tuned for Last Call
Are we out of clips
with
today?
your host, B.J. Edwards.
Was that a no?
I have clips, but I can't pull them up very easily today.
Okay.
I would like to try, and I know with our guests coming on soon, if I can get, I know you want to do this intro, so.
But that's okay. I mean, if you have something applicable, Mr. Anderson, the floor is yours if you want it. If not,
It will take me a second here, so talk away.
well, I'm going to talk about.
Talk among yourselves while
Yeah.
I work this up.
I'm going to talk about the illusion of racism. At least get started on that. And this was triggered by a recent article in the Columbus Dispatch, where we were told racism is causing a healthcare crisis in our Buckeye State, and this is going across the nation. This is going across our nation, which is sad. Then the mayor of Columbus followed up with a proclamation: race is causing a healthcare crisis in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, that's such a joke.
Then a week after that, the mayor's racist proclamation, and by the way, his proclamation was racist. He assumes that white people are doing terrible things to the black community, and the black community just can't help themselves. Without the government, they just can't do anything. Folks, that's racist. That's racism. If you want to call it racism, you want to look at it, that's racism on both ends. White racism, black racism. Coming from a fair-skinned, I'll say, Columbus mayor. Of course, the Ohio State Senate, they're holding hearings, yep, you guessed it, how racism is causing a healthcare crisis in Ohio, with a hint that systematic racism is affecting minority employment as well. I'd like to see the figures, the massive figures that we're talking about here. Not the itty-bitty little things. Huh? No. I want to see the overall huge picture where Whitey has his foot on the neck of his black American citizens. Yeah, all over the place. Whitey needs more feet. There's too many necks to cover, right? Point blank, folks. In today's 21st century America, the practice of late racism, systematic racism, is a lie conjured up by those who need it to be so for their own personal gain. Race baiters, Communist Party, Democrat Party. Am I being redundant? Racism does not exist in practice. But to those leftist, communist activists and sympathizers, when did the truth ever matter? In order to accomplish their devilish goals of destroying America, our republic, racism must exist. Therefore, it literally has been spoken and is being spoken into existence. God created the heavens and the earth with the word, and now Satan's children are doing likewise with a fictional social malady. We are holding a generation back with a lie. They don't believe that they can do something because they've been told they can't do something. And they are expecting to be compensated for it. Nothing that they've done or nothing that's really happened to them, but their relatives, their grandmother. Speaking of grandparents, I had a grandparent who was hung for helping the Underground Railroad, getting slaves out of the South into Ohio, of all places. He was hung for that. Do I get reparations? Of course not. Of course not. In case you haven't noticed, I'm kind of white. The insurgent truth deniers must always have a bad guy. Otherwise, they can't manage the emotions of their subjects, whom they wish to enslave to the state. They cannot let the concept of racism die because it's been such an effective weapon to use, and one need only look at the streets of Milwaukee, Seattle, Columbus, Ohio, and other big cities to see just how effective. But I'm white, and I must be guilty of racism, right? I get it. As a matter of fact, I called a friend this week who's been on our show before, and I told her, says, I'm really feeling guilty. I don't believe racism exists, but I'm struggling with that because I'm not supposed to believe that. I've been trained by government schools. I've been trained by our there's that word again, leaders, that this just doesn't exist, that I am a racist because I'm white. And I'm really struggling with that because I'm trying to deny that. And I know it's the truth, but I'm still struggling with that. And it's not just me. It's everyone else around me that is equally being influenced by that lie. So we're back on our heels. And when we're attacked, have you stopped beating your wife yet? When we're asked that question, oh geez, I probably have been beating my wife. I don't remember it, but I've been told that. So yeah, I probably have been beating my wife. I probably am a racist. Yeah, I'm white, so I'm probably a racist. Believe me, the indoctrination has been incredible and is continuing today. And we have to get off of our heels, on our toes, in the blocks, and get ready to go. And yes, you're going to take a beating because you're telling the truth. What you got there, Chief?
Go ahead.
Okay, with that in mind, I want you to take an unofficial survey out there, Whitey, which I believe will help you get your mind right. In your circle of friends, relatives, business associates, how many folks do you know who are actively racist? How many of your compatriots believe they are superior based solely on their skin color? Which one of them, because of their perceived supremacy, take advantage and or cause harm to others purposely because they have a different skin color? Come on, how many do you know? Yep. It's hard to find even one, right? I know thousands of people, don't know one that practices this. Not one. Do your friends and family harm others purposely or maliciously based upon even those differences? Of course they don't.
Oh, but BJ, there's this one little example right there. I remember great uncle.
Come on. It simply isn't who we are as Americans, folks. It is not who we are, regardless of what we're being told. Yet, we hear it continually. It is assumed that in spite of the mountains of evidence to the contrary, a system of racism is causing a national pandemic. Behind every tree, under every rock, In every closet, you could expect to find a bigot boogeyman. So why all the paranoia? Quite simply because we have been incessantly told to expect it. Perception is reality. And our national perception of reality has been purposely blurred by prejudicial propaganda generated by those in want of more power over us, along with their useful idiots.
We try this real quick. I don't know
Okay.
if this will work or not, but like I said, we just got to try it.
Okay, let's give her a whirl.
But apparently he doesn't want to scold the protesters for not properly social distancing out of fear that he'll be called the R word.
I'm hearing double.
Hooray!
I'm hearing double.
I realize
Chairman of New York
that.
City's Department of Health issued a statement, however, and this is not a joke. He really
I don't
did
know
say
how to
this,
stop
quote,
that.
Let's be clear about
Okay,
something.
okay.
If there is a spike in
Okay,
coronavirus
we're talking about racism.
next 2
We're
weeks,
talking about racism.
don't
And which?
blame the protesters.
And which?
Racism.
And which?
Meanwhile, white people across the country are literally
So what should our reaction be?
apologizing for existing.
I don't know why I'm getting double whammy here.
We should not
Like
only.
I said, I had to try it. I wish I could hear. You could hear this clip here. These girls are taking off the graffiti. If you see that little video there, they're removing the graffiti from Black Lives Matter, and the interviewer is rebuking them for doing that because, and accusing them of not supporting black lives or black people in general because they're taking the message off the wall. If you have seen some of the messages, they don't deserve to be on the wall.
I can't shoot.
But I don't know why I'm getting.
That's disgusting.
Of course, there's no appeasing the mob. Last Friday, they came to CNN's headquarters.
Technical difficulties here. We're still learning new tricks. We haven't ever been able to share video at all before, and now we're able to do part of it. But I've got to work out the audio part of it and see why I'm getting the ghosting or the double tracking of it.
Okay,
Hard to do during the show.
I get it. So we got about 3 minutes left. I'm gonna finish this up real quick, and we're talking about racism. And what should our reaction be? We should not only be concerned, but we should be insulted by the implications and unfounded discussions on racism, regardless of our skin color. That is because in order to have such a discussion, there should be a darn good reason, and there is none. One must first assume that there exists a minority of Americans who are incapable of taking care of themselves simply because of the skin color. On the other hand, there exists a mass of white Americans who systematically want to harm blacks. Is that the America you see? That's what you're being told. That's what their Black Lives Matter. America's reflections, but thoughts of others are not what we've been hearing. Both of these absurd myths, and they are myths, must be expunged from a national dialogue if this nation is to continue as a land of the free and the home of the brave. But there's no harm in talking about racism, right, BJ? In addition to insulting both parties, the mere public suggestion that systematic racism exists automatically raises, number one, the expectancy level of a targeted group of citizens, vote for me, and imposes shame on many others. And if nothing happens, then what? From the discussions. And we all know that the longer the discussion goes on, the worse the situation will get, in case you haven't noticed. If racism exists, it's because we allow it to be spoken into existence. And the assumptive of racism will only end when that conversation ends. So the next time you see a race hustler trying to conjure up the illusion of racism, know that it is indeed just that, an illusion. That certainly isn't who you are, or your friends, family, or Americans in general. It certainly isn't who I am. We must not allow ourselves to be enticed by evil men's greedy deceptions. There exists no national operating system based on racism. It just does not exist. End of story.
that sleepest, arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Okay, we're back.
Yep. I'm trying to get a hold of Michael. And he should be answering here directly.
This is Mike Massey.
Hi, Michael Massey. This is B.J. Edwards with Last Call. Hang in there, brother. I want to give you a quick introduction, and then we'll go to it. All right, brother?
That works fine. Do me a favor on the introduction. Don't say anything about my having been a radio host. That's so far in the past that it holds no relevance to today.
Okay. But you were an ordained minister, right? Spent 13 years? Yep.
I am.
And you serve as founder and chairman of the Racial Policy Center, RPC.
That is correct.
A think tank which was founded on September 15th. Advocates for a Colorblind Society. Also founder and president of the nonprofit In His Name's Ministries. I love that In His Name, brother.
Yes, I was. Yes.
You're on the air. You're on the air. I could read a bio for Michael Massey, but like I said earlier in the program today, it would take me 2 hours just to get through the bio. You've been a very busy lad, brother, a very busy lad. We've been talking this morning about racism, and I know that you've scolded me before because I use that word, and I say that racism will end when we stop speaking it into existence, and no sooner. There is a lot going on in America today on behalf of Black Lives Matter. And I would love to hear your impressions of what it is they're trying to accomplish here and what you think is being accomplished, brother. Michael Massey, you're on, sir.
Well, they're not trying to accomplish anything, and what they think they're trying to accomplish is antithetical to morality. It's antithetical to the United States and the system that we've been blessed to have. It's antithetical to the very word of God, our holy scriptures. So what they're trying to accomplish is what if we're honest, we have to say that the enemy of the people has been trying to accomplish since he was cast out of heaven with 1/3 of the angels that followed him. They're trying to accomplish a godless, anarchist, uncivilized society where evil reigns and chaos is king.
Michael, we've kind of painted ourselves into a corner. Has the American church, has the American Christian painted themselves into a corner? And we've allowed gay marriage, 50% divorce rate, pornography. We send our children to government-run schools where they indoctrinate them, where they tell them that life has no meaning, morals are relative, man's the measure of all things, and the state's your daddy. And it's just been progressive. I remember growing up in the 60s, peace, love, joy, and understanding, brother. Peace, love, joy, and understanding. And the most exciting thing in my life at that time is the invention of the pill. You know what I mean? I mean, the pill liberated me. When I was looking for a mate, the first thing I'd want to know is, are you on the pill? And then our relationship either went one way or the other based on the answer to that question. But we have, I mean, it's just the amount of sinful insanity has just blown up exponentially, and I'd say within the last maybe 5 years. And I attribute that to lack of salt and light in the world. You being a pastor, you might have a comment or two on that.
Well, I'm not a pastor, but I'm an ordained minister.
Okay, I'm
I am
sorry.
a reverend, and We've not painted ourselves into a corner. We have opened the door and embraced the we've opened the door and we've embraced um, uh, the lack of propriety and sanctity for human life, and that's not just vis-a-vis abortion, but human life as it pertains to um, civilized, coherent behavior. We 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 see so little of that, and the again, um, you used the word gay. I refuse to use that word. The fact that it comes from old Welsh terminology and spoke to effeminate men, these are homosexuals. This is a sexual sin, and we need to identify this as it is. We must stop using the lexicon of those who seek to destroy us. One of the things that has happened in the church is that so-called men of God have embraced the world and brought it into the church, and that's not just by behavior, that's by mentality. And when you speak that to them, they become offended and upset. Such things as African American, you're either an American or you're not. You're not. I mean, first of all, African isn't a species. It's a nation. It's a country. It's a continent. So when you say you're an African American, what are you, a continent? Does that make you a species? Specifically, this this aberrant, ignorant, thoughtless mentality that based on a certain amount of melanin content in the skin, that makes you an African American. So I mean, the idiocy of that for any thinking person is offensive on its face. And when you have preachers standing in the pulpit saying African American, they're contributing to they're contributing to the destruction of cohesiveness. They're contributing to the waywardness of Christ. They're contributing to the downfall of their own claimed biblical beliefs, because they are speaking what God does not. God spoke to nations. God never, ever spoke to something called a race, because race doesn't exist. Race is an artificial construct that was created by the social Darwinists who support the myth, the lie of evolution. I'm not a different race. A different race would be a different species. If we're a different race, we couldn't Germans, Portuguese, Africans, Spaniards, and Pennsylvania Dutch could not marry and have children. It would be impossible, because you would be a different species. You have horses, you have Palominos, you have Tennessee walking horses, you have Clydesdales. Any one of them are capable of mating with the other, and they come up with a horse. They do not come up with a different species. You can do this with cats. I have a wonderful cat that I'm deeply attached to. She's a snowshoe Siamese. She's a cross between a tabby and a Siamese, but she's still a cat. She's not she hasn't become something else. So I refer to her as a cat. I don't refer to her as a dog or a house. So these are the problems. We have pastors in the pulpit saying gay. Well, I take exception to that, because when I'm gay, I'm not homosexual. I'm having a joyous moment. I'm happy. And yet we bring this mentality into the pulpit, and the word of God says, come out from among them, be ye separate. The word of God says, what alliance, what What have we to do with Belial? And yet, from the pulpits, this message is preached thoughtlessly, and they become pastors become offended when you make mention to them that this is ignorance.
We're on the phone with Michael Massey. Michael holds a degree in sociology, English Bible, and theology, and pastoral counseling. He began his writing career in 1999, shortly after becoming an editorial board member of the suburban Philadelphia Gannett-owned newspaper. Mike wrote the foreword for the re-release of Booker T. Washington's autobiography, Up From Slavery, released by Pelican Publishing, spring of 2010. I met Michael in Memphis, Tennessee, at what I'll call a second part to a racial reconciliation conference, and was very impressed. Michael knows a lot. He knows an awful lot. He's been around. He has the inside, and I believe, in terms of what's going on socially with what we call, what America calls African Americans, but which don't exist. And Michael, what advice would you give to somebody that's listening to this program this morning with regards to, you mentioned racism earlier. Racism doesn't exist. How do you explain that when it's obvious, and I'm being facetious here, but it's obvious that it's all over the place? Racism is every day. That's all we white people do. How do you explain that?
I explain it by saying racism, again, is a demonic construct that has no truth. Look, we have to stop speaking in the codes of the world. We have to start speaking the truth of the holy scriptures of God. Until we start speaking the Bible, and I can tell you this is not a popular message, because people say, well, if you want to overcome racism, you have to get in touch with your feelings. You have to understand this, and you have to go back and study your history, and you have to read this book, that book, and the other book. No, if you want to end this dysphoria, this social dysphoria, what one must do is go back to the Word of God. And anything short of that is a waste of time, a waste of energy. It is from the pit of hell, and it is spread on the wings of demons. When I talk, I don't like drivers driving in front of me going 5 miles an hour. That doesn't make them racist. That makes them, in my opinion, bad drivers. But the fact of the matter is, that doesn't necessarily make them bad drivers. It makes them drivers that drive slower than I do. The proof of that is the number of tickets I get. Is the police officer a racist because he stops me for doing 65 in a 35? Absolutely not. I've been stopped because I'm doing 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. But these discussions always come back to the color of skin on some level, and they come back to the color of skin because people have been inculcated with the belief that they are different based on skin color. And the idea, when we talk about people, we're always talking about people as an African American or whatever. First of all, that's a stupid thing. They're not. But beyond that, when we reference this, when we talk about slavery in the context that it's addressed, what we are doing is creating an industrialized, an institutionalized mentality of inferiority. But instead of calling it inferiority, it's called something else: prejudice, racism, institutional racism, blah 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 blah. And people go along with that, and sadly, people go along with it in the church. Slavery was not based on color of skin. Certainly the Egyptians enslaved the enslaved the Israelites, that wasn't based on racism. Rome enslaved a generous portion of the then civilized world. That wasn't racism. The Indians in this country enslaved one another. That wasn't based on racism. Mexico had a form of slavery. Italians were slaves. Muslims still practice slavery in the Sudan and other parts of the Middle East. That's not based on racism. That's based on inferiorism, if I might coin a word. You go to war. You go to war, and the benefits, if you're the warrior or the conquering army, is that you take what you conquer, and that becomes a slave. Slavery was a form of commerce. The Africans were catching other Africans and selling them. It was commerce. They were selling them to slave traders, specifically Muslims. They were selling them to Portuguese. They were bringing them to the United States. It was commerce. It became skin color when the Fabian Democratic Socialists became involved. It became a thing of color when Du Bois with Lenin became involved. But apart from that, it was a people that were subjugated to the role of industry. And when you understand that, you don't view yourself as inferior. But white people are being told that they're all racist. Well, that's ridiculous. I would say the white people saying such things are stupid. They're ignorant, illiterate, and uneducated. I would say they're demonic, but I wouldn't say they're racist. If I don't like you, I may not like you because of the color of your hair. I may not like you because you're not well spoken. I may not like you because you're boorish and offensive. I may not like you because of the color of your skin. But that doesn't mean that I'm racist. By definition, that means that I am an ignorant bigot. And there is a difference. The language has been co-opted and corrupted to become what it is not.
You're listening to Last Call Radio. We're on the phone with Michael Massey. Michael has the Daily Rant, which is a blog, and it's MychalMassie.com.
No, that's not. It's not correct. It's Michael Massey.
You're right.
.com.
Right. MychalMassie.com. MichaelMassey.com. He enjoys a widely popular and diverse audience of truth seekers worldwide. Again, you're listening to Last Call. We're talking about what is going on in America today, I guess from a black and white standpoint. And Mr. Massey,
Well, there again,
go ahead.
It's not a black and white standpoint. We must stop speaking their language.
Okay.
What is going on in America today is wickedness. It is the division of people based on skin color. We must stop taking the mindset and vocabulary of those seeking to divide and destroy us. There's no such thing as a black Christian. Show me in the Bible where that is. Jesus came to the Jews. The Magi said, where is he that is born King of the Jews? And then Jesus said, he came unto his own, they received him not. And then we read in Ephesians how that opened up to the Gentiles. There are two groups, Jews, Gentiles. If we're Christians, if we are true born-again Christians, we are heirs of the promise of Abraham. Abraham was the Jew. We are engrafted into the vine. We're engrafted into that Jewishness. through Jesus Christ. We are one. And what the scripture John said in 1 John 1:4 that we are to test the spirits because false prophets have gone out into the world, and we have these false prophets, and sadly, much of this falsity is sheared out of ignorance. It's sheared out of the mindset that the person wants to speak correctly and intelligently and academically, when in fact they should be speaking truth through the Word of God. And I have made a determination that I will no longer be brought into a conversation of human thought and psychological behavior and so forth and so on. I will base everything on the Word of God. It is sufficient, and if we are true Christians, that must be our standard.
Michael, we need to get our Christian swagger back. We have just absolutely lost it. There are no guardrails, because we just seem to have totally discarded the Bible, totally discarded the truth in the Bible, and I have the Natural Family Found, naturalfamilystrong.com, and we believe that the family is critical in getting us out of any kind of a situation, especially this one. Children learn right and wrong in the family, and they learn authority in the family. And what I'm seeing across America is a lack of respect for authority and a seemingly no knowledge at all in terms of right and wrong. It's kind of self-defined. Whatever we want it to be, it's going to be. It's temporal. Today's wrong might be tomorrow's right. How do you see, what do you see, or how would you see the family reacting to this? How would you see the church reacting to this? How can we get back to that swerve?
Well, let's go back to what happened when this liberal philosophy, this mantra from W.E. Du Bois and Bayard Rustin and the Fabian Democratic Socialists and the Marxists and the Alinskyites started in 1964. We witnessed the civil rights, the signing of the Civil Rights Act, which I argue in retrospect should never have been signed. But that's a conversation for another day. But what we saw was this mentality that was introduced of a society that would be the benevolent factor, or the benevolent caretaker of the people. And what happened? Well, let's start with so-called black people. In 1964, the so-called black families, 92% were married two-parent households.
1954.
40% were business owners of some kind. When the government stepped in with these programs, they began to say, you don't have to work. If you have X number of children, we'll take care of you. We'll give you housing. But what people forget is that in order to have these benefits, you could not have a man in the home. A father could not be in the home. So you have a compounding of wrongdoing. First of all, you had children out of wedlock. That was the first thing. Mm-hmm. And then to penalize that further, where the man may not have married the mother but would have stayed with the family, they were expelled from the family, because to stay in the family, the woman would have lost the housing and the government aid. and it digressed from there. Now we have over 70% of so-called black people that are raised in homes that are headed by single mothers, many of whom were never married, multiple children from multiple different men, and they boast of how their mother worked hard to raise them and it was so hard and they had this and that and the other. I say, if your mother had been responsible, this would not be an issue today. But that's unpopular because it sounds unkind, because we are motivated by feelings. Oh, that makes me feel so bad that you would say that. Well, that's too bad. The truth is the truth. The truth is, if you wet your finger, stand in a puddle of water, take a bobby pin or a piece of wire and stick it into an electrical socket, an electrical outlet, you're going to do yourself harm.
Yeah.
It's not bigoted or unkind to say don't do that, because, but that same analogy is very applicable to what we are seeing and doing with this idea of skin color. It's not skin color, it's immorality. And there are political, I wouldn't say political as such, but nefarious entities and groups who exist for the express purpose of dividing us, to bring us into a culture and a mentality of neo-Leninism and Fabian democratic socialism that has failed every step of the way. The only ways in which it has succeeded was to bring about anarchy, inferiorism, and a mentality of being less than someone else because of skin color.
We're on the phone with Michael Massey. He's the author of Random Rants, I Was Right Then and I'm Right Now, Blacks Are Victims Because They're Told They Are. I love that. And Alone with Jesus. His latest work is I Feel the Presence of the Lord. Michael Massey, we really appreciate your input. I have something to confess here, and I'm really struggle with this. And I had this conversation with a friend the other day. Whenever I hear the term racism, I automatically feel guilty, and it's because the schools, because the government, because the news media, all of the institutions are telling me that because I'm white, I must be guilty. I'm responsible for all the ills of a certain segment of society. I mean, I'm telling you, I struggle with that. I get back on my heels, and it's not good to be back on your heels when you're in a fight. But I have such a time struggling through that. Can you advise me on that? How do I keep from that reaction, that response, that Pavlovian response that I've been conditioned to?
Well, I feel sorry for you if in fact that's true, because you've bought a lie. And I would say to you, and I call you friend, and I've called you friend for a long time. I call you brother, because we are born again children of the Most High God through the blood of Jesus Christ. And I say to you, that's your fault. You bought the lie. I don't know what to tell you.
I didn't ask you to be honest. I didn't ask you to be honest with me. I didn't ask you for that.
I figured as much, but the things that I lie about are things like my weight.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going around. It must be some sort of a conspiracy.
I lie. I lie about if my wife says, does this look nice? I mean, I've got a decision to make. I mean, yeah.
Live or die.
Do Do you like what they did with my hair? I mean, I got a decision to make.
Oh goodness.
But yeah, but specific to your question, that's your fault. I mean, I've had people of every description call me nigger and call me sellout and call me Uncle Tom. I could care less. They can call me anything, including late to dinner. That's not me. Why should I feel bad because they said something that I'm not? They called Christ. They called Christ a glutton and a wine bibber. They said that he ate with the unclean. Jesus said, and I freewheel here. I take liberty. Jesus said, "Yeah, you're right. I am, but here's why." And then he pointed out. The sin in their lives, that mote in their life, in their eye, if you will. Why do you feel bad? I mean, did you have slaves? I mean, did you? And so what if you did? Slavery was immoral, but it was not illegal. And as Booker T. Washington said, he thanked the God of providence that he was brought, that his people, that the slaves were brought here. He didn't like the way it happened, but he was thankful that it happened because the alternatives would have been to stay in Africa. And of course, the alternative to that was Liberia, which was part of the Back to Africa movement. And Liberia was at that time was a cesspool. It was a cesspool of disease, immorality, and death. And the Africans were brought here, and out of that we have Booker T. Washington, we have George Washington Carver, ad nauseum the success. We have a bigot and a blowhard buffoon, an angry, immoral, godless buffoon such as Colin Powell, who came here from Jamaica, now talking about how bad America is. Well, America was pretty good to him. He's a multi-millionaire, and he's a 4-star general. So how bad was America to him? When he says jump, you better believe there are a whole lot of people, including 1, 2, and 3-star generals, that do exactly what he says. So how bad was America to him?
I get that. Hey, you're listening to Last Call. Hang in there with us. I need to play a quick clip, and we'll be right back, I think. Yep.
Stay tuned for Last Call with your host, BJ Edwards.
And we're on the phone with Michael Massey. Michael has successfully debated President Bill Clinton's advisor on civil rights, Dr. Ron Takate, the University of California at Santa Barbara. Michael argued against skin collar-based affirmative actions. I think you've also debated Geraldo Rivera, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and Jesse Jackson Jr. Those must have been
That's correct. I actually debated Al Sharpton on his television show.
Mistake for him.
That was broadcast out of New York. He refused to debate me when I challenged Walter Fauntleroy, who was the co-founder of the Congressional Black Caucus. I challenged Ron Morial, the chairman of the Black Subversive Anarchist Group, and I challenged Al Sharpton 3-on-1 to debate me on how America was racist and why Glenn Beck's rally for America at the Lincoln Memorial was wrong, and that was 2010. And not one of them would show up. I paid for everything, including the space at the National Press Club. My office arranged for everything, and they ran for cover. I will say, however, that Sean Hannity sold me out when I asked him to help have me and Sean and Sharpton on his show, so I could challenge Sharpton face to face. And Sean Hannity ignored my request, but then had a similar debate with Al Sharpton in New York at a hotel in New York, where they charged admission and kept the money, but they would not do it for me. When I said I have everything and it's free. So yes, I've debated these people, and I've debated Jesse Jackson Jr. His father would not come anywhere near me.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, it is. It is sort of surprising.
How recently with you said Hannity? How recently was that you?
That was 2010 when I challenged
Okay.
him, and I actually held an empty chair debate. I had three
Right.
chairs with their name tags, and we held an empty chair debate where the questions were put to me, and I answered and responded to what they had said at that time.
Here's what needs, in my mind, at least part of this needs to happen, is that folks like yourself and Mason Weaver need to get back on to Hannity, back on to Tucker, and other talk shows, because they're always talking. They first of all, they allow the term racism and discrimination to exist. Once you do that, then the conversation's over with. Because
well,
of how
don't want they. Look, I used to be on Fox News and on some program on Fox News at least once a week.
Mhm.
They don't want me on Fox News because I am the antithesis to everything they are. And not only that, I will call them out for their duplicity in creating this divisive society that people suffer under. They don't want me because I'm going to speak from the scripture. I'm going to say, look, stop saying racism, stop saying this, stop saying that. Let's speak the truth. And I'm going to use Jesus as my example. People do not want to hear on an evening talk program Jesus. They want to hear Dr. So-and-so and activist so-and-so and minister such and such, and they will talk, but they talk without authority based on the words of man.
I think that America has a warning shot being fired across our bow by our Creator. And I'm hoping that this will get us to stop and think and get back to righteousness. I'm not saying...
You know, to that point, if I might interrupt you
sir.
and forgive me, to that point, I don't see that happening for two reasons.
Ooh, okay.
One, if that were to happen, the rapture would not only be delayed, but ultimately, as people speak to getting to this and that and the other, there would be no need for it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and it can go. This can go in either order. It took Noah 120 years to build the ark. When he started the ark, it was him and his 7 family members. When God closed the door on the ark, at the end of that 120 years, it was animals of every description and Noah and his 7 family members. Not one person in that land in 120 years said, you know, Noah, what you're doing and what you're talking about, there might be something to that. I think I'm going to embrace what you're saying. I'm going to believe on Adonai, on Jehovah. Not one did in 120 years, and the ark was in front of them every day. So how do we think, as Jesus, when Jesus said, as in the days of Noah, so it would be when he returned? How do we believe now that if we just do this, this, and this, it's going to suddenly change everything? What I believe is that those that will be reached for Christ will be reached, and the others are going to be sorely disappointed and surprised when they come to the realization that there are a significant number of people missing because the rapture has taken place and they're left behind.
Brother, I appreciate you because you are committed to your cause. You don't compromise, and that's what's really gotten us into such big troubles that we have today. I earlier in our program, I was talking about President Trump and how the difference between how he and other Republican presidents respond to things. The question, if there's a lack of truth on the floor, Trump seems to say, no. We have to get that out. We have to resolve this issue. We're not going to go back and think about it. Is this the truth or is this a lie? Let's look at it right now. And I love that unyielding aspect. Speaking of president, or speaking of governor of, say, the state of Washington, if you were the president, if you were the governor, or if you could appoint somebody to be one of those two people, what would you have them do? What do you think they should be doing as a governor of Washington State right now, or as a governor of Minneapolis or Minnesota, or as the president of the United States? What ideally would you see happening? That's an easy question, right?
If I was talking to any one of those governors, I would tell them that they need Jesus Christ because they're wicked and going to hell. I would be John the Baptist, and they would be looking for Salome to dance for Herod, so she could say, "I want his head." If I were talking to President Trump, I would say, President Trump, stop buying the lie. Your heart is in the right place, but you're buying into a lie. And because your heart's in the right place, because you are a Christian, you need to follow godly principles. And yes, I know that you're the leader of the free world. You're the leader of all of the people, so you cannot discriminate. But the truth is still the truth, and you rule and govern on the truth. And trust me, President Trump, God, the same God that protected David, that protected Isaac, that protected Jacob, that protected Abraham, that protected Moses, that protected the apostles, he will protect you, and you will succeed. I would speak to him. I would speak that to him, and I would also speak to him that I understand that you're the president of the United States, and pursuant to that, consistent with that, there are certain things that you must be the president of all the people. But you are first and foremost the president of truth, the arbiter and presenter of truth. And as you lead, so the country follows. We see this because he has been so successful in his administration, despite what the media will try and convince us. He has been successful because of those things. He has been successful in his professional career because of those things. Keep in mind, there is no scandal in President Trump's professional career, business career. If there were, they would have found it.
Oh my, yes.
But he ran his business fairly, truthfully, aggressively, but he ran it honestly. And if anything else had been the case, they would have found it.
He is under a microscope of sorts, is he not? Michael,
not of sorts. not of sorts. He is under a microscope! Exclamation point.
There you go. MYCHAL hyphen MASSIE.com. MYCHAL hyphen MASSIE.com. Daily Rant. Michael Massey, I love you, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate your standing for our Creator. Got about a minute left. Any quick message you'd like to leave with our audience, sir?
Say, do not be, stand for truth and do not be afraid. Speak the word of God and do not be afraid. That's what I would say. I would instruct people to that. I would also ask that people go to my website, MYCHAL it's MYCHAL hyphen MASSIE.com and purchase my latest book, which is I Feel the Presence of the Lord. 241 pages of daily devotions that speak to the heart and prayerfully lead people to a close relationship and feeling the presence of the Lord.
Michael Massey, God bless you, brother. Godspeed, and thank you very much for taking the time with us this morning.
It's been my privilege, and thank you so much, Jimmy. I look forward to seeing you again, and prayerfully it'll be here instead of there, but that notwithstanding, it's always good. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, brother.
Tell him a happy birthday.
No,
Today's
don't
his
do
birthday.
that.
I couldn't keep that quiet.
You're my birthday present. Thank you, brother. Michael Massey, he's I look at what I do is very frustrating. Very frustrating. I see in the storm clouds and wanting to fix things, and I understand what Michael said. I understand what he said. But it's still, if it's to no good not to do it, Tim, that's a sin, right? And there's a lot of work to be done here. A lot of work to be done here. But I thank God that I've been able to kibitz with the likes of Michael Massey. Somebody mentioned Dave Dobmeyer earlier in the program. He as well. I mean, there are so many people. Mason Weaver is another example of. I was on Coach Dave Dobmeyer's live tour, and if you know anything about Coach Dave Dobmeyer, he's a doer. He goes out and does it, and he's all over the United States. And I was with him for a good year or two, just on that travel aspects of what he does, and got to meet some very, very interesting people. Dr. Kent Hovind, I think, was the first place we ever went to his trial in Florida, and then Kim in Kentucky, just and Indiana, just all over the place. It's just incredible what I've been able to see, and the people I've been able to be with, and can call them friends like Michael Massey. It's a blessing. It really is. And to be able to learn from them, and you do learn from them. And do I agree with everything? Nah, of course not. That's the human condition, right? But I think Michael had some very, very strong intellectual, objective. Especially the African American don't use that, and racism don't use that. Of course not. It's divisive. And I use those words. When somebody says African American to me, I just go crazy. But I use those terms. I use those terms on my show to get the kind of reaction out of Michael that I expected from him, and to be chastised. That's fine. That's fine. I agree. We shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that. But I'm just so blessed. I'm so blessed to know the people that I know and be associated with the people I've been associated, and can't wait to see who God's going to put in my life next. Is it fun? Yeah, not all the time. Is doing a 2-hour radio program on Saturday morning. I make it look easy. I know that. I make it look easy, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes, Biker Bill being one, that help out. Obviously, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, you get a trip over me all the time.
When I'm not firing him, he does a great job. He does a great job. When we come back up, we're gonna clean things up today. B.J. Edwards.
I wish I could do a better job. But
yeah, we'll see what happens. Who's Jimmy? Who's Jimmy? Happy birthday, Jimmy. Who's Jimmy?
I don't know where that.
I don't need it.
I don't know. Somebody's
Yeah.
eavesdropping on us.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
So play that break thing, and I wish we could do the music.
Yeah. Well, we can, but we'd get kicked off, wouldn't we?
Stay tuned for Last
On
Call
Facebook, yes.
with your
Yeah,
host,
yeah.
BJ Edwards.
What if I played Spirit in the Sky?
Oh, they would probably.
Yeah, kill us on
But
that. I have.
that is a good one.
I have in my formerly nicotine-stained hands a certificate of forgiveness. Huh? Forgiveness? A certificate of... yeah, that's right. That's right.
Who forgave you? The Lord?
Certificate of forgiveness for guilty white people.
Something you confessed earlier.
Yeah, whereas we have found, in the course of history, that white Europeans took and held captive black Africans as slaves, whereas for hundreds of years the white Europeans did on occasion subject the aforementioned black Americans, held as slaves, to the most inhumane treatment possible, whereas we have found from the descendants of the aforementioned white European slaveholders are still feeling guilt, real or imagined, did I ever set this up, over the treatment of the aforementioned black African slaves, whereas we believe that continued guilt, real or imagined, is counterproductive to building forgiveness, trust, and cooperation among all Americans, and furthermore believe distrust weakens our nation. Now therefore I, Clarence Mason Weaver, founder of the Jesus Caucus organization, being found to be the descendant of the aforementioned black African slaves, do hereby, by the authority of my ancestry, certify that all guilt, all shame, all debt, real or imagined, of B.J. Edwards, found to be a descendant of white Europeans, is hereby forever forgiven and forgotten. Further, B.J. Edwards is hereby released of all shame, guilt, and debt of the white European slaveholders, real or imagined, and continue as a full citizen of the United States of America without the burden of apology, self-sacrifice, or lowered self-esteem. Signed in July of 2014, Clarence A. Mason, founder of the Jesus Caucus. So there you go, man. You don't have one of those, do you, Mr. Anderson? No.
No. I'm not. Guess I'm not forgiven yet.
What's this you say, whatever that is? It would be easier if it was 3 hours. Sure it would, Biker Bill. Sure it would. And we've covered a lot of ground today. There is definitely an issue in America. And we've been blinded. Not by the truth, but blinded by propaganda. Look it. Racism does not exist. It just does not exist.
And speaking of reparations,
Mm-hmm.
there's a Bible answer to that
Okay.
idea. Ezekiel 18:20, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, and neither shall, sorry, the light went off, neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him. So God is holding the individual responsible, not the past, not the son, not the daughter, not what's happened before, not what's happened even after. It's up. There's no reparation.
Interesting.
We're not responsible for that. There's another verse too that I can't find, but that's spoken of a couple of times.
There's another R word. Repentance, which our good friend just talked about.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. But there's an F word that we need to be talking about.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Not the F word, BJ. Yep, the F word. This is something that can bless a nation. It can bless a people of a nation. And only certain people can do this F word and profit from it. And it's an opportunity that we just aren't realizing. But it can be so cleansing for a nation. That F word is forgiveness. The Bible tells us if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven. And if we're going to get to the promised land, you got to be forgiven because of our sinful nature. There are a group of people, and let's just say that racism exists right now. They have to be willing to forgive. No, racism doesn't exist now. But they have to be willing to forgive that sinner. And it did exist in the past. At least slavery did. And the mistreatment of people did. That's over and done with. And it is not being actively practiced today in America. It just is not. If you want to grow, if you want to learn, then you need to be able to forgive.
Sounds like somebody jumped in here real quick before the end of the show. You got 4 minutes.
I think we just logged out. I think that's what happened.
Oh.
I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, somebody did leave. I'm sorry, Ray and Keith. I didn't get to you. I apologize for that. If you forgive, there's going to be an incredible blessing on you and your family and your nation. But you have to forgive. Once you forgive, that sheen will come off of your eyes, and you'll see the world for what it is. Not for what people, race baiters and politicians want you to see, or the greedy want you to see, and use your emotions against you. Forgiveness washes all that away. It's incredible. Am I saying it's easy? No. But I'm saying that it is something that needs to happen. And I think it becomes a whole new ball game once you do that. And this isn't forgiveness with conditions. This isn't forgiveness with reparations, okay?
You're right.
The
slate's clean, right?
It's forgiveness without expectations.
You erased the chalkboard and washed it.
Right. Forgiveness is very, very difficult. But it's very, very rewarding.
Sometimes.
Getting to the point where you can do that. Is difficult. I don't know. Bill, are you on the line? Maybe he is. Bill, did you want to say something?
Well, wait a minute. Now talk. I had to turn down.
Bill, did you want to say something?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah.
You got 2 minutes.
Got that.
Fire away.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Got Biker Bill on the line.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yo, your turn. 2 minutes.
No, my car broke down, and I wanted to see if one of you guys could pick me up for the Klan rally later.
Oh, Biker Bill. I love you, brother. I appreciate that. We'll see what we can do with regards to transportation. We may stop at a church on the way, but don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough being white in America today with all the assumptives that people make on you.
I really enjoyed the show.
Well, good. What'd you think of Brother Michael?
I think he went away.
Okay. All right,
I had a
Bill.
lot to say, but I waited too late to say it. So I'll hang up.
We'll be here next week for 2 hours.
We'll bring you on for a guest next week.
Yeah. God bless you, Bill. Hey, thanks for listening today, folks. Thanks for listening in. This is
Conference muted.
This has been a good experience for me today, and I just want to thank all of you for listening in. God bless all of you. Godspeed.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Okay, I need to come over here and then broadcast, right?
Yeah.